There's a book called Anti-Fragile. I'm sure you might have heard about it. It is by Nicholas Nassim Taleb, a very, very outspoken modern thinker. And I think Anti-Fragile hits on a few key ideas that he has been championing. The first thing he says that the entire system, what is anti-fragile? Anti-fragile means that, for example, there's an earthquake, right? And there's a pottery. Does the pottery benefit from the earthquake, or does it break up? The pottery does not benefit, right? So it's fragile. So the opposite of fragile is normally considered to be delicate or something else, but it's accurately more described better in the word anti-fragile. So anti-fragile means something that benefits from shocks and unpredictable events. So that's the core idea. Taleb says that for anything to be anti-fragile, the constraints must be fragile. And anti-fragile is basically overcompensating against adversity. Obviously, this is a very common, we see it every day. If you want to hit a good, healthy body, you need to overcompensate against weight training. You need to go forward and hit that critical benchmark for you to really gain that forward momentum. Taleb says that tranquility is actually against fragility, is against anti-fragility. So tranquility leads to fragility. So if you think things are not volatile, things are tranquil, there's a chance that the fragility of the entire ecosystem has increased. One important example that he gives, which I like very much, which says that you don't need to understand how to fly a plane. You can't fly a plane if you try and understand why planes fly. So there is a case where you may not really understand why things happen, but the idea to seize that opportunity itself is good. So instead of thinking why and all this stuff, it's far more better idea to seize that opportunity. There's a lot of talk of lowering your risk and preparing yourself for ensuring advantage from unpredictable events. One of the way he says is, forget the middle, look at the left extreme and the right extreme, and try and ensure that you don't fall short of these two extremes. So that's the way he tells about how you can manage risk. One thing that he mentions is the larger the organization, they're much more susceptible to fragility, and they'll be hit by much more crisis, which makes sense. I think there's a lot of because they have a deep bureaucracy who cannot respond back to shocks, who cannot respond back to unpredictable events. Taleb's work is extremely good because he combines stats, he combines probability theory, and combines game theory, and it's much more mathematical nature, and that makes his work far more appealing to me. One thing that he touches on this book, and he expands much more further in his next book, Skin in the Game, is about how modern professions do not have the down risk but take the high risk. For example, all professions benefit from anti-fragility in the sense that they take into account and take the benefits of all the upswings. But what actually is happening is they have no exposure to the down risk that they outsource to somebody else. The consequences of wrong never have a bearing on modern professions. Take iBanking, for example. They take all the risk, and downturns are not really taken by them. One thing that you can take from this book is, which says that without volatility, we would not be progressing forward. Eliminating volatility would mean making society much more fragile. This is a very important concept, essentially because he says that there needs to be a market for a lot of movements, a lot of failures, because we can't say that this is a tranquil point. It has to keep evolving. One example that sticks to me is an example that he gave, that we have a lot of belief in experts and their opinion, which might not really be correct. He says that there's a long evolution of how hobbyists and amateur thinkers develop new things, and a lot of good things in modern life has not come from people who are experts. For example, submarine was not developed by someone who came from a defense establishment or was a professor. It came from a religious person who was putting his spare time for submarines. Essentially, the point is, our trust in experts has to reduce, and tinkerers. In fact, modern revolution, the industrial revolution is almost based on the work of amateurs and newbies, not on experts. So these are some points on anti-fragile. There are a lot of lessons that we can take from. So read this book. I think you'll love reading Mr. Taleb's work. And essentially, the next book, Skin in the Game, that he published is also an awesome book which I've read multiple times. Thank you so much for your time, and it's been great to have this chance to talk to you. Thank you so much.